Welcome back to the podcast. This is Matt Eagle from Eagle AI Agency. If you've been following along, I think this is episode 53. We've been interviewing CEOs. We've been interviewing business owners, small business owners, mid-sized business owners across multiple different industries, whether it's HR, staffing, professional services, coaching, and then insurance, real estate, more solopreneur sales, right? So I have John on for Activate Success. I'm super excited to talk about your business. We were talking last time, and it just sounded like you were just having so much fun in your business. So really excited. So if you can't go through your business, what you're doing, and then we'll jump right into the questions.
Sure. So, Matt, it's nice to be here. Thank you for having me. So, yes, I'm John O'Brien. I'm a psychologist by training based in Portland, Maine. The business I am in is Activate Success. And the tagline that I'm using now for the work I'm doing is that I work with individuals and organizations to eliminate rudeness before rudeness eliminates its best people. I do coaching, consulting, and professional speaking. I'm the author of the book, Rudeness Rehab, Reclaiming Civility in the Workplace and Your Home Space. So I do a variety of things in my business, all of which I enjoy.
Yeah, that's amazing. That is awesome. It's definitely needed. I'll tell you that much. Can you talk through strategy of helping someone get the success? So how do they activate success? Like if you can, no secrets given, of course. Kind of the idea and strategy behind it.
Sure. So I think that, my belief is people come to coaching because if we're going to talk about activating success, it can be, I guess it could be also through hiring me for speaking, but it's really about trying to help to activate insights that people probably already have within them. Maybe I'm able to give them some of my tips and tricks that I've developed over the 30 years in the mental health field. But a lot of times I feel like people have the capability within them. They just need the right environment to help to activate it. And that's where I came up with the name of the business. Is it's not giving people success, it's helping to activate their capacity for success. And with the work that I do most primarily, as I like to say, I like to try to help adults act like adults. So it's helping people to be able to be their best selves, especially when they're stressed. Because when people get stressed, it brings out their negative behavior. So a lot of times coaching and speeches that I give are about helping increase people's awareness of themselves. Obviously, that's even more powerful to do individually in coaching. It's to start coaching with some assessments to get them to be more aware of what are their strengths and what are their areas of vulnerability as a worker and as a leader.
Yeah. What do you think is the number one blocker for people to not activate the success on their own? I'm a huge Joe Dispenza fan, and he always, people always make change when it's a life tragedy, like tragedy happening. So that's typically what activates someone to get desperate enough to drop ego and like make things happen. What do you specifically see? And I'm sure these people aren't in tragedy, right? But they're like looking to activate something. What do you see mainly in the industry?
Well, I think, yes, sometimes it is not necessarily a personal tragedy, but can be the tragedy of all of a sudden losing a position, or not necessarily even losing a position, but being in this place where all of a sudden they're getting feedback that they're not measuring up in the position. Many times people are great individual contributors, but then they get put into a leadership, management, or even leadership position with either no training or limited training, and they're trying to just fall back on their instincts, which I think many people fall back on parenting instincts when it comes to working with supervisees, and people always don't have the best parenting ability. So so I think it's that people start to get negative feedback. That's one major thing. But sometimes it's also someone who comes to me proactively as a younger leader who is kind of growing. They're an emerging leader, and they know that to be their best, that research shows that it's much less about IQ, and business success is way more, 58% I think it is, about EQ, about your emotional intelligence and how you manage relationships.
58% is a lot. And I'm sure
It is.
IQ doesn't make up the rest either. It's probably organizational skills and managerial skills and communication and all these other things too as well.
Yes.
That falls in line. And then expertise and then probably IQ, right?
Right.
So
Right.
I think people have it backwards for sure. What are the type of people you're typically working with?
So my target audience is most primarily people in financial services, so banking and insurance, people in the tech world, and have worked over the years with a lot of people in healthcare, which it's probably no secret that our healthcare system is really broken right now,
Hmm.
and it's kind of chewing through people.
Yeah,
So
for sure.
my work is really about trying to help some people be able to manage their stress to be able to stay as providers
Yeah.
in our healthcare system, because I think often people look at individual providers as the problem without looking at what's the larger set of issues that's creating the stress for them.
Yeah, I've seen a lot of that. I worked partnership with IT engineering support for a large healthcare company, which allowed me to be close to hospital and provider support. Right.
Hmm.
A lot of them, they don't really get to make a lot of choices, right? Where they have so much expertise and they can't really help in the way that they want to help. I've seen that so many times. They break away, build their own practice, and then they do holistic healthcare because the idea is that they can't do that with actual healthcare in itself,
Exactly.
which is super interesting. And it says a lot about a lot of things for sure. So as you're taking someone through a journey, like how does it start? What's the system look like? And then how does success, like how do you define success in your program?
Well, I think, and again, depends upon which of my programs we talk about, that sometimes it's working with an organization to do kind of keynote or a presentation to the large group, and then working with the leadership team specifically to help them to be able to implement something more system-wide, organizational-wide, in terms of awareness of the fact that people can disagree, and that in fact disagreement is really important and useful,
Yeah.
but that you can do it in a way that's productive and civil, where people still feel respected. There can still be a debate of ideas, but in a
Yes.
way that supports everybody's ability to contribute. So sometimes the intervention is more kind of system wide, but as far as individuals are concerned, it starts with an assessment of some kind, and then getting people to be aware of their strengths, their values that are driving them professionally. But I think the most important part of the work I do is about getting people to look at who are they at their worst. When I
Yeah.
start to talk to people about this, they're like, I don't think I want to know. It's like, no, you do want to know. Because if you
Right.
don't know, then you're not going to be knowing what to look for. And
Right.
it's often the people can be really supportive leaders, wonderful, 99% of the time, but it's in that 1% if they absolutely lose it and they are engaging in really egregious behavior. Well,
Yeah.
that's what people remember. And then they
Yes.
get tagged as that, and that can really derail someone's career. So it's really about helping people understand themselves, especially their vulnerabilities under stress, and then reinforce what they can do to be able to better manage those things.
Yeah. As I work with a lot of companies, especially a lot of startups and a lot, the conflict resolution and idea exchange is just non-existent,
Yeah.
right? The disagreement turns into an ego battle versus like, let's just get to a conclusion that works, right? Let's combine expertise, let's combine thought processes. We don't always have to take the advice, right? But it doesn't mean that giving constructive feedback or giving some type of feedback is a bad thing either, right?
Absolutely. Right.
And as a leader, it's like you have to absorb that feedback. Like you want all of it. I mean, I don't understand leaders that don't want feedback, even if it's bad feedback. Like it's like a whole picture that you're drawing up as data that
Hmm.
allows you to actually make an educated decision. Sorry, I feel so burnt by it. The last engagement I had was just that exact thing, and they're suffering for it, and it's like, okay, well, it's because you're not taking any feedback, right? I had one of the best leaders I ever had. I even shout him out, Michael Medvac. He was so good at writing down everybody's feedback, absorbing that feedback, and then bringing it out in a positive way, right?
Right.
And that is like the definition of leadership, I think, and so going outside of the keynote speaking and then the one-on-one engagement, how does that typically look? So someone comes to you, you get one-on-one engagement, like how long is the weeks, and then what is success defined in that?
So, it runs the gamut. I
Mhm.
think there are some people that will come to me more around a specific situation, more maybe around a crisis situation.
Right.
They just want a few kind of, just give me a few things, and then off I go. So it's very targeted, and it's not even, it's more about problem solving,
Yeah.
and that's all they want. Then there are other people that, I mean, I've worked with people too who are being referred because they've been bad actors. And so
Yeah.
they are required. It's like,
Hmm.
that they get, put in timeout with me
Yeah.
for a period of time. And interestingly enough, a lot of times what comes out in that is that their issues were really not individual issues. They were reacting with their stress due to systems issues, but they get labeled as kind of the bad actor. So it's really about helping people. Success for them is to learn not only how to change their reputation, but also then getting back into the workflow and recognizing how they can manage their own reactivity so that the systems issues become the focus and not them as the individual.
Yeah, that's awesome.
But sometimes it's also, again, with people I work with in the longer term who want to develop leadership capacities.
Right.
There are some people I've worked with for years, off and on, with a different cadence. Sometimes if they're doing a job transition to a promotion, well, then we may work together for a period of time, every other week for a couple of months while they're adjusting to the new position and then back off. So it's everything. I don't have a set like one size fits all approach. It's
Hmm.
really kind of individualized in working with people to understand what they want.
Yeah.
And so success is going to vary based on what someone wants. That person that just success for them is, I've got this crisis, give me some stuff, bye. Like that's their desire. People who are the kind of bad actors who come because they have to do a certain number of sessions, but success for them is getting back in the good graces of leadership. And then the people for them, success is really an ongoing idea of getting support around their increasing promotions and level of leadership.
Yeah, that's amazing. So your primary focus is corporate
Yes.
professionals. Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah, yeah. More leadership executive level too as well, I'm guessing. Yeah.
Yes, I mean certainly sometimes in talks that I give, sometimes they include people that are more kind of frontline staff because a
Yeah.
lot of times in like healthcare settings, the frontline staff are the ones who are dealing with the unhappy, you know, um, people who have been waiting on the phone or waiting there, or the provider is late, and so it's really about for them to develop skills. But it's a lot of times I always say. I'm not a big believer in trickle down economics. We can have a debate about that. But I'm a big believer in trickle down dynamics.
Yeah.
And a lot of times, however leaders are acting with their direct reports and the messages they give, it trickles down to a whole feeling in the organization. So it's really critical how leaders are behaving.
Yeah, it's like a whole organism in itself,
Yeah.
right? It really is. It really is. I've seen that. I was supporting a call center. We provided about 100 plus call center support reps, and then we were managing quality and those things, providers and everything else. And you can see it with the VPs. You can see it from other angles where if the message isn't right, everybody on the floor hates their job. If the
Yeah.
message is right, everybody loves showing up to work. And it's the same message, maybe presented differently, communicated differently, taken from a different angle, putting the people first type of mindset, which, if you're a high level leader, that's what you should be doing anyways, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
That's what you should be doing. So pivoting a little bit to your business, right? How have you been building this business from a more operational standpoint? So referrals, have you been using systems? Are you using your keynote speaking as a lot of the referrals too as well? How has that been going?
Um, well, so just to kind of set the framework here. So I've been in the mental health world for about 30 years now,
Mm.
but I started when I was 6. That's why I still look so young. So I've been in 30 years uh, and been doing psychotherapy for all those years. And I still have that as part of my business.
Mhm.
So about 10 years ago, I started Activate Success to begin also adding this to the network of things that I do and offer. And so most of my referrals to this point have been either through my speaking, people seeing me through speaking, or through referral, people
Mhm.
getting to know me kind of in the local area or nationally and referring people. Um, and I've had a few people also see some of my work now online and seek me out that way too. But I would say probably it's mostly either through speaking or personal
Referrals.
referral.
Yeah.
And that um, you know, I'd never have liked to think of myself as being in sales. I always,
Yeah. Nobody does,
you
right?
know,
Nobody does.
my dad was a regional sales manager for Dun& and Bradstreet, so I knew
Oh,
about that
wow.
world. And
Yeah.
I remember hearing some of, what he was going on for him, and I was like, "Ugh, I will never be in business." But then, boom, here I am in business now. And as a business owner myself for since 1998 is when I actually started. I bought into this business. So, I think I feel like I'm still a work in progress,
Yeah.
but I think I would just say for anybody that has struggled with that, one of the mind shifts that I have found useful recently is that, I'm providing people with a useful service, and I'm just simply letting them know about a useful service that I provide.
Yeah.
And then they get to decide whether that's useful. So that's helped me feel less icky about the sales
Yeah.
piece.
Yeah, absolutely. That's amazing. And then going into this last bit, AI, right? So,
AI, of course
yeah,
we're going to talk about AI.
exactly, right?
The
So,
80,000 pound gorilla in the room, right?
that's
Yeah.
right. So, obviously, you're talking to a ton of leaders too, which is great. So, you get perspective of leaders and you get perspective of your own business. But where are you seeing AI making the biggest impact today in business?
Well, certainly, I'm hearing about it from people in the technology world
Right.
losing jobs, and
Yes.
that many organizations just laying people off because AI is taking over. I
Hmm.
certainly hear about it from the kind of fear that's rising in young graduates about whether there will be jobs available for them out there. Um, from the with the leaders I am working with who are dealing with this in their businesses, a lot of times it's constantly feeling behind, or like it's
Yeah.
so hard. It you know it's a revolution that's happening, but that's happening. It's not like we're getting to a place where, oh, you can learn how to use Google or something. That
Yeah. It's
it's
not the
something
same.
that's
Yeah.
we're flying a plane while we're building it, and we're constantly building it. um,
Yeah.
and I think that's a source of significant stress for people. And certainly I find that in my own business is to try to keep abreast about how could these technologies be useful to me in terms of the work I do. So I think trying to be keeping up to date on what AI can do for my business, as well as the impact that it's having on my clients, that's some of what I am finding.
Yeah. 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 And what I've seen as a gap is the education of AI, right? There's machine, like if you go to like any type of certification, you're getting machine learning, algorithmic understanding of AI. Nobody needs that. I'll be honest with you. Unless you're actually building AI, nobody really needs that, right?
Right.
What people need to know is how do you use the tools, right? How the heck do you even use Claude? What features does Claude have? How does Claude actually interact with other tools? How do you actually expand these capabilities, and how do you build agents for yourself, right? There's two components right now. One is people believe that they can sell a product at any price because no one's going to take the time to learn it. One, right? The second thing is that people aren't willing to step in and learn it because there's a
Mhm.
lot of fear mongering in social media. I think it's almost on purpose where they're making the consumer so scared to not use it that now they can make whatever price they want any product, right? And it's kind of really frustrating for me because there's small businesses that just like, hey, I just want to automate my pipeline support, my marketing, my SEO. I just want to do a little bit of email campaigning here and there without it taking in my entire day, right? And so I'm building a certification called the CAP certification, which is a prospecting certification through AI, right? Where you can learn all the tool setups to make sure that you can actually build a pipelining system for any type of company. But then through that education, you actually know how AI works, which is so simple and it's so easy to utilize that people don't know. And then so they can step in, get over the fear, not worry about cybersecurity risk or any of that kind of stuff, and just learn the basics of the tools. One, so they're not bamboozled on price, right?
Mhm.
But the second reason is exactly what you're saying, right? It's people aren't learning what they need to learn to stay relevant for job opportunities. How
Mhm.
do you leverage AI? How do you prompt AI? How do you connect different tools? How do you ensure that you have these type of skills before going into a job so you have the basic understanding of whatever tool that they have can connect to whatever tool and you can prompt it appropriately, right? So it's a big gap right now. really big gap. Companies building AI, right? Then there's people learning how to use AI, and then there's fear mongering consumers that don't know anything about AI.
Hmm.
And so when you buy a $10,000 bot, you buy a $10,000 agent that could have cost you $120 a month, right? It's starting to create this resentment. Everything that you see is, hey, I have this perfect tool for this. It's $5,000 with $2,500 a month for you to use it, and it'll stay mine and it'll never be yours.
Hmm.
And that's the most frustrating thing to ever hear versus you build it yourself. So,
Right.
is there anything else that you would recommend for people to have a specific mindset towards it?
Towards AI, did you say?
Sorry, I had a jet go over. I'm right next to
Oh,
things. Yeah.
that's okay.
Yeah.
Well, I think nobody likes change. I mean, some people are like, oh yeah, I'd really, but generally as human beings, we like things to stay the same.
Yeah.
And so it's very understandable. People are experiencing some anxiety just with the fact that there is this change happening and it's so mysterious. But what I tell people is that it's important to, despite the fact that you may be afraid, which the more anxious or the more emotional people are, the less rational they are.
Exactly. Yep.
So get facts for yourself. Become informed. Read what you can. This is what I've done. Read what you can. Go to talks. Like I know, as I always say, I know just enough to be dangerous in regard to AI, but I feel like I'm continuing to be out there and learn how it can be helpful. And so I would say to people, hang in there and understand that it's important to stay informed. And as much as AI is taking away some jobs, I do believe it's going to give other jobs for people down the road. It's just we don't know exactly what those are, but I think those will be coming. And so but the more informed you are, it's going to help you know what's the training you need to get those jobs that will develop in organizations down the road.
The certainty that you have about what's coming next is that you need to know how to use AI. That's the
Right.
only certainty you have.
Right. Exactly.
And I think it's going to expose weaknesses faster, and it's going to accelerate strengths quicker, right? So
Hmm.
if people can really identify, like you were saying, their strengths, weaknesses, their deficits, what do they need to do next in corporate America, in the mentality behind it, right? They're going to grow exponentially within their career if they know AI, right?
Absolutely.
Or they can manage people who know AI, for instance, right?
Hmm.
Or see deficits between different tools, or so on and so forth, right? What I have found though is people don't know AI without touching it and trying it, right? There's enough times I've tried to coach someone in AI and they look at me like I'm speaking Chinese, right? So I'm like, just let's get in the tool together. How about you open your screen and let's do it together? And then now they start working it, and then they're so pumped about it because like, wow, this is so easy. This is much simpler than I thought. So I encourage people to put your fingers on it. I think someone said the best thing is go to this tool like Perplexity or Claude and ask it, how the heck can I use you to benefit in my X career, right?
Hmm.
Start there. It'll give you trainings. It'll start you in the right place. But really what it comes down to for small businesses, and I'll give it a little plug, I do help people learn those tools quickly and keep costs low. That's like the number one thing I do. I just am so passionate about it. But John, thank you so much for jumping on. It's so insightful. Obviously, you're doing very well. You're a very high level professional. I appreciate you jumping on. And I'll get this sent over here once it's fully published.
Sounds good.
All righty.